The unarguably most infamous serial killer of all time is Jack the Ripper. No other killer is more well known, widespread, and largely talked about as the 19th century unidentified British serial killer. A quick word to the wise that this video will not go in depth to Jack and other serial killers' crimes, but will be discussing the overarching things they did. I highly advise viewer discretion. Understand that this video is a case discussion about the societal impact of serial killers and how their idolization has led to things like people requesting them to come to a video game called Dead by Daylight. But in order to do that properly, I will have to briefly go over the crimes of these people. No outright descriptions or triggering words will be used, but I will be briefly talking about what they did. In any case, we should probably start with a brief history and question of why Jack the Ripper is so well known. In 1888, Whitechapel, London, 5 prostitutes would be killed and disemboweled between the months of August and November. Throughout the time, the police would receive several letters taunting them with inner details of the murders. They would be signed by Jack the Ripper, a person who would never be caught, and the story would go on to inspire thousands of people to become Ripperologists, dedicating their lives to attempt to solve the age-old mystery. In 2014, some DNA testing led to the name Aaron Kosminski, but these claims have been questioned by other scientists and scholars, with some saying that it actually led to a painter named Walter Sickert, and still some other evidence suggests the Rippers could have been a woman. Essentially, in over a century, we are no closer to solving these crimes as the police were back in the day. But this kind of thing is nothing new. Serial killers go largely uncaught quite often, and there is an estimated 25 to 50 active serial killings at any given time. Hell, the Ripper going uncaught in the late 1800s is hardly unthinkable, given how primitive investigations were at the time. I'm honestly surprised America's own Zodiac killer isn't more infamous. Not only were his murders committed at a much later time, between 1968 and 1969, but he also killed the same amount of people, taunted police with ciphers and puzzles, and was also uncaught and unidentified. The reason as to why the Ripper overshadows him is a mystery to me. But the more important discussion at hand is the idealization of serial killers as a whole. There's this episode of Criminal Minds where the killer electrocutes women and records their screams so he can wear their clothes and get off to the screams. The field agent the BAU is assisting is obsessed with giving him some kind of headline name and making a name for herself off of catching him. Hotchner lectures her, naming the names of the victims of Bundy and asking her if she's aware of those names. She says she isn't, and when the bomb is dropped on her that those are Bundy's victims and no one ever mentions them, the point kind of goes over her head. I even purposely left out victim names in this video when discussing the Ripper and the Zodiac, and I can guarantee none of you even thought about it. You didn't. For even a second, consider I was leaving out the important people. I was doing what the world does and talking about the killers as if they were the spotlight, treating their crimes as props in a discussion. This is something that many modern-day philosophers and sociologists have spoken on. This kind of laissez-faire towards the victims as merely numbers on a stat board showing the evilness of serial killers has led to a culture that idolizes serial killers, to a point where documentaries made about them are treated as movies with fictional characters. There's tons of podcasts, YouTube channels, and more that feature people playing amateur detective with real people's lives. And I wish I could tell you I'm exempt from this. I love true crime and find the psychology behind these people fascinating. But that's the trap, isn't it? There's a sort of morbid curiosity within us, the kind that causes us to not look away from a car wreck. And this odd idealization and disconnect has led to people like the Ripper being almost mythicized in modern culture. With his name being used in many works of fiction, he's almost a creature of folklore nowadays. People acting as if he's a storybook character and not a real man who killed real women and terrorized a real place for months. The death, the trauma, the fear that these people experienced was real, and it's something we are so far disconnected from. The Ripper is just another figure in media, from documentaries to fictional stories, anime characters. We even put him in a rap battle against fucking Hannibal Lecter a few years back. He's no longer a terrifying monster who destroyed real people, he's a fictional figurehead for serial killers. When I hear people saying things like, oh my god, what if they brought Jack the Ripper into the game, I find myself wondering if this person knows exactly who that is, and what they did. The reality is that no real-life killer should ever make it their way into this game, because the disrespect toward real human lives, real trauma, and the real world would be astronomical. And I don't think Behavior even has this kind of thing on their radar. As much shit as this community gives them, Behavior has always been incredibly respectful to real-world people, and I don't foresee them going back on their word of adding real-life killers to DBD. Nor should they. At the end of the day, I think the answer to this question was pretty obvious, but I still feel like I see the occasional "put Jack the Ripper in DBD" comments enough that this video had to be made. Just remember, whenever you're trying to come up with concepts for things that should come to this game, you should always remember that the disconnect between a video game and real life is an important one to hold. You should always know how to separate fiction from reality, and understand that just because something is infamous and it seems so far away, it doesn't automatically make it fiction. Stop asking for real-life serial killers to come to this game, and start remembering that real people's lives have been ruined by these people that you idolize so much. I don't really know if I wanted to end this video on such a note. I don't even know if I wanted to make this video, but it was something that's been weighing on my mind for a while. Like I said, even I'm not exempt from being addicted to true crime podcasts, and I sometimes wonder why there's such a disconnect between my logical side and the side of me that just has to listen to what happened. Perhaps we should all start taking the time to realize that true crime should be done with some kind of mitochondria of respect toward the people who have been affected in this way. Serial killers should definitely be talked about, as they're a real consequence of human action, but they also shouldn't be talked about as if they're celebrities, idolized by people and talked about as if they're these great, creative beings. The amount of people who talk about serial killers as if they're not real is the reason why serial killers are so prevalent. And that's all I have for you guys today. A great big special thank you to my channel members listed on screen now. If you want to find out how to become a channel member today and get awesome perks like seeing videos early, merch discount codes, and more, then please click that join button down below. I appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. If you're a fan of Dungeons & Dragons, then check out my other channel, Kaiser the Bard, where I do things like discuss the game, give you DM and player tips, and more. We'll see you over there. Link is in the description.